Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Hemmings Hot Rod Barbecue Podcast. On this episode, we have Larry Kosilla from Ammo NYC. But before we get to Larry, the world's greatest detailer, we're going to dive into our Hemmings classifieds, of which we have 25 or 30,000 classifieds online at any given time. Plus, we also have the Hemmings auctions, which have some of the greatest vehicles out there. So we pick a car that we think our guest is going to like. And for this episode, we've chosen a 1979 MG. Now, this is a cute little red car that I could picture Larry finding in a barn, pulling out, looking at it, and then going straight bananas detailing wise. The one that we've chosen is actually a really cute little red guy. You know, he's got really kind of hockey stripes on the side. It's a special edition on it. You know, when these cars came out, I mean, the car was called for then the midget. It is a tiny little thing, but my God, is it cute as hell. So I don't know, give us about 3 or 4 seconds and we'll be right back on the Hemmings Hot Rod Barbecue with Larry Kosilla from Ammo Auto Care. Welcome back to another episode of the Hemmings Hot Rod Barbecue. I am here with my old friend, my old friend.
I haven't even turned 40 yet. Don't even go there.
Old friend, Larry Kosilla from Ammo NYC.
What's up?
Known this poor boy for the better part of 15 years. One of my closest and dearest friends. Also one of my most successful friends, because let me tell you something, people. There are very few people in the automotive industry that work as hard as this man who have created a monumental, beautiful company from nothing. I can attest to that because I was there in the beginning, from the days of the ice cold garage in Westchester, New York, when Larry was on his back scrubbing down cars when it was literally snowing out. Proud to know him, proud of his success. And he's back on the Hot Rod Barbecue Podcast because he's kind of awesome and he's a great dude and his products kick ass. I know that because I use them on all my vehicles. So we're going to talk detailing today with Mr. Larry Kosilla from Ammo. How you doing, bud?
This is good. Do that again. I'm feeling really good about myself all of a sudden.
See, my job is to boost the egos of everyone that come up here on the barbecue, because you know what? Some people need it. Some people come on and they're a little depressed, and then Musto comes in.
A ray of
jacks
sunshine.
You up.
I am ready. Ask questions. I am ready to knock them out of the park. I'm doing well to answer your question. Everything is going okay here. More importantly, how are you doing? Because I know it's super crazy hot out there. I think you get fires and all that kind of crazy stuff going on.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the world of Northern California. We've just resigned ourselves to the fact that we live in a tinderbox, and that at any given moment, the whole state could go up in flames.
Do you actually smell like?
Thankfully, we're doing okay. There are fires up north right now, but we're good right now. I have a very, very close friend who's a battalion chief. He's on call 24/7. This is, you know, the problem with Northern California is in the past year, I mean, we're kind of in a drought emergency situation. But listen, everybody out here knows that. Everybody's taking precautions and stuff like that. So I think we'll be okay. Good. Knock on wood. Knock on wood. All right, so let's get into a little bit of car care. Let's talk about the world of detailing, because my God, has the industry changed since you started in it, and you have been one of the key change makers in this industry, pioneering so many different things. But one of the things I want to talk about is, so when people buy a car, right? Or actually, I'm going to go back one sec. When people sell a car, I have bought and sold 4 cars this year, 5 cars this year, right? Anytime that I go to buy and sell a car, one of the things I look at is how much care the person has taken of that vehicle prior to their sale, right? Did they clean the interior? Did they do the exterior and things of that nature? So how important is that? And how much or little work is it for a person to get a car in for sale condition?
Yeah. So, I mean, the obvious answer is the cleaner it is, the more in theory you can sell it for. So let's put that to the side because no one's listening to the podcast. That's pretty basic. The things that I look for when I'm doing something like that are 2 key areas that people don't really talk about a whole lot. That's the door jambs and the inner wheel barrels. And you're like, well, who cares about this? But I do tons of inspections on cars, like for owners who don't want to go there. And they're like, hey, just give me a quick overview of what we're talking about. Do you think I should be, are we plus 5,000, under 5,000, whatever it is over what they're asking, right? And so the first thing besides the paint, besides all the basic things that anyone would, like if you were showing a house, you would like, yeah, you're going to paint, an area that's got a scuff or something like that, on your door of your house or something. Very basic, obvious things. But the things that they don't get, that's where I look at the first, because usually a crazy person who maintains a vehicle really, really well is by default not going to have those issues. So for instance, when I bought the Macan, I got such a smoking deal on that car. It was like $6,000 or $7,000 under, the asking price because it was so bad. Plus we weren't in this market. Like right now, we can talk about
used cars are bananas.
Bananas. Like so far past bananas, not even. So for me to be able to buy that the way that I did was the negotiation kind of went from when I opened up the trunk, when you looked at the trunk, all the hinges for the trunk to go up and open and close, all of those were caked with this black, and it wasn't just like dirt, it was mold, indicating it had been like that for a long time. So even if you wash a car and run it through, I run it through a car wash every once in a while, well, it's going to help. It's absolutely going to help. But those door jams plus, on the top of, let's say my Macan or any car, there's those rails where you can pop them off and put like a roof rack on.
Sure.
If those get jammed up, that's what causes the leaks inside the cars, because the drip rails that go all the way down through the car. So if it rains on the car, it doesn't just come off, it goes through the car, through the little, I think they call them sipes, those are wheels, but you know what I'm saying? The little drip marks, the hoses, if those get plugged up, they back up into the car. So that's a long way of saying, I look at those first. I mean, it's very obvious. You look at the paint and scratched. Okay, it's not going to be great. Sure. A lot of times people just get them polished out, but they never seem to get the trunk, the hood jams and the trunk jams. That's number one. Number two is the inside of the barrels, because anybody can clean the face of the barrels. But a lot of times.
So now when you clarify the inside of the barrels, are you talking about the inner wheel wells?
Yeah. No. Okay. The inside of the wheels themselves.
Oh, I got you. So basically the backside of the wheel.
The backside of the wheel. Anybody can clean the face of the wheel. Like, oh my God, somebody's coming real quick. Shh, someone's coming. We need to clean the car in 5 seconds because I want to try to get, I don't want them to negotiate like down on it. I'll be able to go in, just take a light. And now we're talking about a car that's, no one's doing this. No one's
You're not doing this on a $2,000 car.
Yes. So the rules are a little bit different, but overall, if you're selling a Corolla versus a Ford GT, they're kind of the same concepts, but you're not going to be scrutinized as much on a Corolla in general, general. So let's say in a Ford GT or whatever, I'll be able to take the light, and I don't take the light and put, like, if this is the wheel, I don't like put the light like here, like this kind of thing, and look behind it. I take the light and go behind the tire and shine it through the caliper and all that, and then look back and I can go, oh, okay. It's the dumbest thing in the world, but that just tells me like everything. Cause like you could eat off the inside of my wheelbarrows, mine, because I'm crazy, right?
You're a nut. Yeah.
So that's why I get a premium on the cars that I, if I were to buy and sell a car like this Macan that I'm going to be trading in soon, I'm getting 8,000 more than for what I purchased it. And I already have 22,000 miles on it from when I bought it. Wow. And I already have a piece of paper saying they're going to give me X amount of dollars more than I paid for it. Aside from the fact that the market is going absolutely
insane right now.
If you have a used Porsche or a used car,
oh my God,
used Porsche, you're going to get anything you want for it right now.
So let me ask you this. So when you go in as a negotiator and you're looking at looking at a car to purchase, right? How do the dealers and or the sellers generally respond to that? Because like you said, I mean, I bought a bunch of cars this year, buying and selling and stuff like that. But do most people know who you are when you come in to look at a vehicle? And when you come up and you say, well, listen, I inspected the inside of the barrel and this and all the drain holes were clogged. Are they surprised by that? Are they like, or did they not have the general knowledge to understand it? And is that something that they may never have thought of when it comes to selling a car?
When I buy it from, regular folks, not the dealership, you can kind of, have your way a little bit more because that's not what they do for a living. When it comes to dealerships, like me trading this one in, they're a little less, you can't push them around as much, so to speak, because they have their book and they pull out their KBB and they call it and they look at it and they say, this is how much this is worth. And they don't sort of care so much about the detailing aspect because they have a whole crew of guys that will like clean it up. Yeah. But it's nice to know that it's well maintained, et cetera. But this particular time, I bought the car, speaking of my Macan, and I knew that it had a Carfax on there. and I knew the guy who I bought it from, and I saw the pictures of it beforehand. So I had a lot of little, experience beforehand. And it was a minor little thing that he got touched up, which I eventually like totally fixed in 2 seconds. I could care less about it. When I go to trade it in, that popped up. And so it became much harder for me to explain the story of like, no. Listen, I'm not going to buy a car. I started going into a whole spiel, like, he's like, yeah, that's great. Do you see the book right there?
Right. That's what it says.
It's not going to say, Larry says it's okay. You know what I mean? So I didn't get any pull on that one by any means. So I still did well because the market was up there, because, I'm in the industry and I know the guy personally. Yeah. And so you and I can, sort of, we know how to get in the back door of the club, sort of.
Sure.
With respect to buying new cars. So I leaned on that a whole lot more than I probably normally would have. But right now, because the market is so dry with used Porsches, they make a whole lot more money on the trade-in than they do. In general, dealerships make less money on selling new cars than they would, let's say, a used car, right? Generally speaking, take out the F&I guy and the insurance and this, buy this package or what, that's where they make all their money. Right now, this particular dealer is salivating for Macan GTS that is as clean as mine and has the history and could, to some degree, point to a video and be like, look how clean, amazing. Like, it's very few people have that opportunity. So I'm getting a smoking deal on it where it just doesn't make any sense not to trade it in and get something else. So.
Well, let me ask you this. What is the biggest mistake? So when people are going to trade in a car, or they're going to sell a car at auction or something along those lines, what would you say is the number one biggest detailing mistake people make when trying to prep a car themselves?
Yeah. So this is going to get super nerdy here, but when I go to auctions and when I go on behalf of somebody else, it's about the measurement of the paint. If you're looking for a car that is specific, meaning I want a specific 912 with matching numbers and when guys go in and buy stuff like that, they're like this. They have like a tiny little narrow thing to look at. And if anything is outside of that, they're not going to buy it. So the big mistake that happens is the person or the owner, the guy who's selling it, the buyer will have me come in and I'll look at the car and I'll basically report back to him that the paint is very different. What I mean by that is when I put my paint depth gauge on there, someone previously, to your point, to your question, was detailing the car and I don't want to say detailed it improperly. It's just, there's so much fat that you can take off on a car. And that's a weird way of saying clear coat, right? So you have a clear coat or no clear coat. There's only so many times you can go to that well. There's only so much cartilage you have. Right. Once the cartilage is gone out of your knee, that's it. It doesn't grow back.
It's gone. There's no more.
Same thing with the clear coat. Now you can repaint it, of course, great. And you can replace your knee, but would you rather have your original knee or would you rather have a new knee, right? You want your original one. So in terms of the value of a car, a lot of times cars, as weird as it sounds, get over detailed. And now we're talking like 1% of the 1% right now. So this is not like a very common problem, but I'm answering your question. So when I go in, a lot of times it's an over detailed car. Not that it's too clean, not that it's this, it's that it's not original. And that in the upper echelon of 1% cars, whatever, that will decrease the value of the car. And even me saying that sounds as dumb as it sounds ridiculous that I'm saying that, but I'm talking about the 1% of the 1% that are so fanatical and finicky about that type of thing. Me personally, I don't necessarily believe in that, but that's not what I'm getting paid to do when I go there. That's the top of the top. Everything else, I think if you detail the car and you leave as much paint on as possible, have it nice and clean and shiny. If it's a decent car, it's going to go. It's the difference between when you take a car that is very, very old and you have like pasty paint on it. Those are the ones like, let's say an old single stage red truck. I can make a fortune on that because if it's all hazed out and then you bring it back, the spread between what you paid for that, the work that's done, and then what you get in return for that, that's the biggest bang for the buck. So I give an example of like for me, detailing a Ferrari versus me, detailing some old nasty car, the spread on what you're going to make is much bigger on, if you're going to buy and sell it, is much bigger on the crappy car because you have a bigger before and after. You're really
of course,
thing versus throwing some wax on a Ferrari.
Right.
You see the subtlety of what I'm saying there?
So. So How is the quality? So, when you talk about different gauges of paint, right? You'll go up to the paint with a micrometer, you'll measure the thickness of the paint. When did paint start to become quote unquote good? Right? Because I know there was a time in like the 1980s where American manufacturers, the paint on those cars were just junk. I guess what I'm wondering is, when did paint to really start to become good to the point where a great detailer like yourself can go in and look at something and be like, you know what? I know when this was made. This was made from 1960 to 1974. The paint, like, are there decades by which paint was better or worse, or does that generally go by manufacturer? I know that's a big question.
Yeah, it's a ginormous question. So not to get into the whole history of paint, but everything back from lacquers and all that kind of stuff. It really depends on, it's sort of like people who think about music. Was music the best when it was in vinyl, in CD, or
Right.
MP3 or whatever, right? And some people, you got the hipsters that only like the vinyl, you got the new guys that whatever, right? So it's hard to say which one is the best, but if you're asking me personally, there's been a movement, I'm sure, for the last couple of years, but in terms of supercars or let's say resto mods or whatever, where people are starting to paint them again in single stage paints, because those have that nostalgic and that vinyl kind of feel, if you know what I'm saying. So from the mid 80s or so is when factories, Honda, Chevy, etc., started to put clear coat on there. Why? Because one, it protected the underneath layer of paint, because paint and clear coat are basically the same thing. One just doesn't have pigment in it. In it. One is focused on more UV protection, etc. But it's essentially the same thing, for the lack of a better word. And when the clear coat came on, the clear coat protected the underneath layers. But from a financial perspective, it actually made it so that the paint was much thinner. So if you're putting thinner paint on, you have much less weight on there. You have much less time that you have to put it in the bake in the oven, which is less heat, which is less money, so it's all been a movement, just like any other business, to move towards something that is more economically feasible and actually better for the car. So to say which one is better or not is arguable, but I would say, if you asked me, on a super old car, it's kind of cool to put single stage paint on, right? That's just like an old type thing.
Yeah.
On something that's a little bit newer, and you're going to have more of a, I don't want to say daily driven type thing, but more of a daily driven type thing.
Sure.
Clear coat is just leaps and bounds, in my opinion, easier to maintain. But really, it's the level of work. Everything I'm saying is ginormously broad right now, because it's like a 4-hour conversation to each one. But basically, when you put paint on a car, what I've learned is it's the layers in between what you're seeing. So when you paint a car, it's sort of like sanding it down afterwards. I've done a video on this, and helping to have the paint gas out faster than it normally would if you were just to leave it out. Putting another coat on there, sanding it down. It's the process. It's the process in between the layer of what you see.
Right.
The last layer is the sexy one that you sand and you polish.
Right.
And it's all great. But if you do that to all of them in between, those little 1%, 0.5% each time, that's where you get like, holy crap, this thing is like a piece, is a mirror. And so that's when you start getting into the distinctive image and the reflection and the angle. That's when you start getting into the nerdy detailing things, which make let's say a Riddler car that took 1,000 hours to sand or whatever. You can't do that without having all that paint underneath. So to sum it up, having a thick layer of paint to be able to play with is great, but the thing that people don't understand is that you can't love on a car too much unless you've made that plan ahead of time. Like my Porsche, the black one, that's got 5 layers of Bentley black on it. So I can sand that until my eyeballs fall out, in theory. But if you take a normal 964 from 91, that paint is razor thin. You can go right through the paint in 2 seconds. So if you're gonna perfect paint, you kind of have to have enough equipment behind you, meaning enough layers of paint, enough meat on the bone to be able to go chew on that stuff. That's the Achilles heel of detailing, summed up in 5 minutes or whatever this conversation is. There's just not enough meat on the bone to be able to do a lot of things that we want to do. People don't realize that. They over rub it, they over touch it, they swirl it. It's this vicious cycle. And so to answer what's the best paint, if I had to be blunt and kind of tongue in cheek about it, the one that has the most paint on it is usually the best.
That's fair enough. Yeah. So that actually brings me to another thing. Do people, when you do preparations for shows and you have clients that come in and say, Larry, I've got this car, I've had it for a million years, or whatever the case is, and it's been, I don't want to say neglected, but it's been driven. It's a wonderful car, whether it's an older Porsche or a Ferrari or whatever the case is, right? When you talk to the client about what is entailed on this, are they surprised at the actual amount of work? Because it's kind of like when I talk to people about paint and body, most people have no concept of what goes into actually painting a vehicle. Is that the same in detailing? We'll say, well, man, it's going to take me 60, 70 hours to do this.
The answer is it the same? The answer is yes. But now at the stage of my career, the answer is no. Right. So in the past, it was yes, because detailing's everywhere now. There's everybody's shooting video. I think it's great. It gets more people out there. I think it helps raise the tide for all the boats, et cetera.
Sure.
That people know how much work goes into it. And this movement from being like a grease monkey, whatever, to actually understanding what's going on and layers of paint and how to polish it is, I hate using the word art because it's definitely not an art. It's a science, more of a science than art. It's technique, it's driven, it's experience, et cetera. So now with all the videos that are prevalent, not just mine, but everyone's, that's watching, and you look at it and you go, oh, geez. And you see 150 hours compressed into a 15-minute video. You go, like, holy cow. So nowadays, I just had speaking of an old Porsche, old roof Porsche, one of two ever produced in a Spider in a convertible. The video is coming out soon. Incredibly rare car. He was an example of someone that knew how much work I had to do with this car because he bought it off of somebody that was left in a garage, this whole thing. Yeah. It was totally neglected. I mean, it was the paint that I was talking about before. It's this old, faded red for some reason, single stage.
Yeah.
Just is like when you polish it, I mean, you look like a hero when you're done because it turns from like dust to shiny. So he was a perfect example of what you're talking about. He understood everything. And nowadays, at the level or the career or how long I've been doing this for 20 plus years, people go like, I understand. And they hand me the keys and they go like, I'm out of here. Impossible for me to do all this stuff. I'm like, thank you kind of thing. So yes, in the past, but definitely not anymore. And I think not just because I'm Larry on the show or whatever, it's more it's more readily accessible to see the process and appreciate it a little bit more, just like I would a plumber, because I don't know anything about plumbing, but I can go on YouTube and be like, how do I change my whatever out, my sink or something, see all the steps and be like, I get all the steps, but I'm not doing them. Like, totally appreciate it. Sign of the cross on the guy. Go get him. As opposed to like, why am I getting charged all this money for a guy changing a pipe? So I think that's the upside of social media and YouTube and all that.
When you started in this, and video wise was about 10 years ago or so, I think, right? That's when we kind of started this out. And I'm sure you still get questions, but have the questions become a lot more advanced since you started in regards to your technique, in regards to the products? Because I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Larry actually comes out and manufactures his own products for certain things on vehicles. And there are, certain products have certain applications, whether you're doing wheels, or you're doing paint, or you're doing interior. And as somebody who's used them for the last, 10 plus years religiously, I could tell you they really work. But are you getting those questions from detailers now as to how you started the manufacturing process, what it entails? And do you have the time to educate them, or do you try to, or are you like, well, I had to figure this out by myself? Which you did.
Yeah. There's multiple questions rolled into that one. So I get a lot more questions now than I have in the past because of the popularity of the videos. Mm-hmm. The questions that I do receive are usually very technical. So the challenge that I have, so I'm kind of talking to you as like Larry, the owner of Ammo. Yeah. And then just like Larry, the detailer guy. So the challenge that I have now is the questions we have become so technical that I can't not answer those questions myself. Okay. So all the questions right now are being answered by me. I'm hoping at some point in the future, where's my tracking information? These kinds of things that can be, I have somebody else, because it's literally, you know this better than from a personal perspective. So every day for the last 12 and a half years with the company, from 6 o'clock at night to 8:15 at night before I put the baby to bed and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I am answering those types of questions. Great. It's not a woe was me. That's just part of being business. But because the company's growing so much, those are just a ton of questions. So put those to the side. I got to figure out how to do those. But then there's the technical one. Like I have a 1972 whatever, and it's got a very specific thing. And here are 17 pictures of it. I love answering those questions. The challenge becomes one is time, of course. And two, a lot of the times I can't answer that. It's sort of like calling a doctor saying like, you know, I went for a long run and man, I got a headache. You think I'm going to die? And I'm like,
am I going to die?
I don't know. I don't know. I need a few more. I need a little bit more information. So there's a lot of back and forth of like, and then that, you know, this isn't a problem, by the way. It just is what it is. But then I'll get an essay of the history of, you know, what he had for lunch 10 years ago. So that's fun too. But it can be challenging to answer those because you just need a lot more information. So I love diving into that. So to answer your question, the questions have become a lot more specific because I think the education level of detailing overall, the excitement and the tools and the techniques, I think people think it's in reach. They wouldn't be asking me these questions if it wasn't in reach. Like, I think I can do this. I'm like, you can do this, but here are the 10 things that you need to think about beforehand. Because if I was standing there, I'd be like, I would knock out 8 of those 10 things because it doesn't, but I'm not there. I don't know if you ran a marathon that you just said you ran and then you got a headache. Well, oh, by the way, it was in Death Valley and it was 130 degrees. I'm like, oh, geez, you didn't tell me that. Well, you're dehydrated. Go drink water.
Right.
You see, I can't over email. I can't do that. I don't know. Why do I keep getting sap on my car? I just cleaned it up. I'm like, then I look at it and I would be standing there. I'm like, do you see the tree right there? Don't clean your car, cut the tree down. You see what I'm saying? So that's the challenging part that gets me frustrated because I want to know, like when a car pulls in, I see it all. Like I got it. Like I can put your hands down as a doctor and take your shirt off and be like, I see the whole patient, the whole story. But right now, I'm not. So the questions, there's no way to make a template to answer any of those questions that way.
So fair enough. So, you know, if people watch your videos, which I'm sure they have, you know, you have taken on detailing challenges that are pretty astonishing, right? Like some of the barn finds that you do, some of the cars that you've pulled out of garages and stuff that haven't moved in 20 or 30 years. Most people would look at those and go, no, I'm done. Like I got nothing for this, right? And yet you'll go in there with a straight up hazmat suit on with booties, gloves, a helmet. You like
people think that's crazy and overkill. That is not. Oh overkill. No. It is so disgusting. And so like I've done that and tried to be a tough guy and not wear that stuff. I can't do that now at my age or whatever. And then like I have a cough for like the next 2 weeks because I didn't want to look like a tool bag wearing a bunny suit in the thing. And I'm like, you know what? The heck with this. I'm wearing it. You can make all the dumb comments you want. Like, why are you wearing that? Why are you wearing a mask? I get that. Why are you wearing a mask? Like, because there's mouse poo everywhere. What do you want from me over there? Like, why are you being intelligent? There's a comedian, Bill Burr, that talks about a guy going outside with an umbrella, and he's like, "Look at that guy with an umbrella! What an idiot!" It's raining outside, and the people are like, "What are you talking about? It's raining. He's wearing it." But as a guy, you know, guys want to look at this loser doing something smart, putting a jacket on because it's cold outside.
Well, dude, it's the internet, man. As soon as you throw logic in, you screw everything up. You know, you can't do that. Logic has no place online. I mean, you know. So has there been? Does that still excite you? So, for instance, if you see a car, because you are the most OCD son of a bitch that I have ever met in my life, to a fault. Yeah. Like y'all think you might know OCD people.
Everything. I overthink everything. Everybody says I can't say it on this podcast, but I mind F everything. They're like, would you stop mind effing it? I'm like, I'm trying to play out every single scenario. And it is, we don't need to go down that rat hole, but it is, it's not tongue in cheek. It is actually like a problem to some degree.
Oh no, it's a thing. It's a thing. There's no question. Like if you can, if those who are listening to this on like audio, go to the YouTube channel and watch the video, because you'll see that every time I ask him a question, Larry's eyes go all around his head and he's trying to figure out the most methodical way to answer the question. And I can physically look into the boy's head and see the gears turning. And just because I've known him for so long, I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, but think about it.
I know.
I've managed to put my craziness into an actual profession.
You have.
I've capitalized on that thing, man. Otherwise, I'd be imagine me being a banker or like a doctor.
No, you'd lose your mind. You'd be like, the kidney doesn't go there. It's and what is this blood clot? No. So it is the only profession that I could ever see you in, which is fabulous, and I absolutely love it to death.
I knocked that one out of the park. I give myself that one.
Oh yeah, no, you did.
Hired anywhere else except this.
I know. Well, so do you still find cars when you see that barn find or something? Will you look at stuff and you be like, I can save that? Meaning, are there still challenges out there in the automotive detailing world that you haven't accomplished yet, or that you? Give me an example of something that stumped you, whereby you're like, "Oh, I don't know if I can handle this one."
Yeah,
or I haven't figured out the process.
My stumps are old aluminum and metals and stuff. I'm lacking in that because I don't really polish a whole lot. My buddy Kevin Brown is really a master at the metallurgy, and I'm weak in that department. So if I see something like an old wheel that's in a barn, I'm always curious as to what the level is that I can get that clean versus having that restored. Because restoring a chrome wheel is cool, but it devalues it for the owner. So that's the part that I'm always thinking about. Number two is I took a bunch of classes, and I'm kind of bummed with myself, but it is what it is. I can only do so much. There's a company called Fibernew. Anyways, these guys are like mental crazy about restoring the interiors of cars, but doing it in a way where you can do it with the stuff still in the car. You're not disassembling everything and let's say re-leathering it or whatever you're repairing. So I took a couple of classes in there, trying to figure it out. And I wish I was better at that particular thing, but that's one of the ones that stumped me. Like if something gets, people think when you clean, let's say a steering wheel or an armrest, and you keep cleaning it. This is a very common question, actually. You keep cleaning it, rub, and the stain gets bigger. They think that the rubbing and the cleaning, they're not getting the stain out. And what they're doing is they're rubbing the dye off the material, steering wheel, armrest.
Yeah, sure.
Put whatever you want. And it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then when I explain to them, every time you wipe it or clean it, it's not the cleaner's problem. You could do that with water and your finger. You're spreading, you're removing more and more of the dye. And so because I got so many questions like that, I wanted to be able to repair that. And you can, but it's actually ridiculously complicated to match the color and the dye, to match the color of the dye and all this other stuff. So I would say those two things, the metallurgy and the painting and the repairing, not cleaning, the repairing of because there's comes a point where you can only clean so much. People think detailing,
of course.
How do I detail this rust away? I'm like,
yeah, it's rust, man.
It's rust. It's not going to work. You got to go body shop level. That's where I wish I had a little bit more chutzpah to be able to get that done there. But yeah.
Okay. Well, all right. So we fit on a whole bunch of stuff as far as car prep, what to look for, things like that. Let's talk about ammo for a second. So what is actually, I know last year you constructed this amazing studio and building, and I know you're doing a whole bunch of other stuff. What's new with ammo? What products have you got coming out? What are you working on as far as development and things like that?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Ammo's going crazy. I'm trying to, my overall, action plan right now is to try to get some help because I'm still one person, which I don't want to say baffles people, but baffles people, and either they think that's weird or cool or not good or something. So I definitely need some help because it's just getting out of hand in a good way. So we're working on finding somebody to help me kind of sift through all the, where's my tracking and this kind of thing.
Sure.
Doesn't necessarily need my touch, but I think I'm the one causing the problems there because I like to be involved in every single order and understand why is this being delayed? Why is it stuck in custom? These kinds of things. But I probably need to sleep a little bit more than I am at the moment. But in terms of the shop, our third time doing the floor. Make a very long story short, there was a bunch of confusion. Nobody's getting thrown under the bus here. I'm just letting you know that ahead of time. But there was a bunch of confusion. Call it whatever you want. But when we put the lifts in, 3 times the template was not relayed in the correct way. I'm trying to be as politically correct.
Is that to relate to the town for permitting or what?
No, it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with what type of lift that we had.
Okay.
which is the template that was associated with that lift. And then when
Yep.
we put it down, it's concrete.
Yeah.
That's it. Like once it's in, it's not like, yeah, you
It's
know what,
in.
let's move it over an inch.
Yeah. No.
So it didn't work out. So basically before, as you lifted the lift, just think about it mentally, you know, if it's in the ground, you drive a car on top of it and you lift it. If the spread between the two lifts in the middle is too much, as the lift raises up, the percentage of you catching the frame becomes very, very minimal. And if you can catch the frame because it's too wide, you catch the inside part of the lift on the outside part of the frame. So as the car is going up, the frame, people are listening, can't see this, the frame is tipping in.
Oh, yeah, not okay. I got you.
It's not a good look. And so even if you could get it on, so if I took a Mini Cooper and drove it in, the lift would go up and the Mini Cooper would sit on the ground.
Right, I got you.
This is not a good look. Like, why do I have a lift? If it's
people frown on that.
It's not good. So we did that 3 times. Why did I do that 3 times? Because it just, we've had 700 people sign off on it and it still didn't work. So now we figured it out. I've had the Pope, the President of the United States, Czar of whatever, do the sign of the cross on this. So we had to dig up the ground, which made my neighbors insane. We had jackhammers, the whole thing. We put it back in. We tilted the ground this time too. So now that the water pitches in, so that's kind of cool. And then now tomorrow, as a matter of fact, at 12:45, I have a meeting with redoing the floor again. Because every time you do the floor, it's astronomical amount of money. Right. So, but I can't have exposed concrete because of my craziness.
Right.
So anyways, that's what's going on there. In terms of business, I'm working with a new group called NAMC. They're the North American Motor Car. You guys should definitely get them on because they're crazy. They're super muscle car people.
Okay.
He has, I don't even know, a couple hundred cars in his own personal inventory or whatever, and he buys and sells them. And then
I might have to take a visit out there because that's my language right there.
Well, that Superbird that I did, that was his.
Yeah, I need to see that.
The last video that went nuts, but lots of old muscle cars. He has a couple of new stuff too. But basically, what they do is they find. I don't know how they keep finding them, but basically, they like this week they sent me 3 of them. Like, hey, can you come detail these cars because we're going to sell them? I'm like, so it's a dream come true because they don't care about the videos or whatever.
Sure, of course.
They need the car clean. Their business is finding the cars, cleaning them up,
selling the cars,
storing them, and selling them. Which great, it's great business. I'm going like, I'll do that. I'll help you. You know. So over the last year or so, we became friends. Why am I telling you that? I'm telling you that because a mile down the road from me, maybe a mile and a half, 2 miles, whatever. But basically a mile down the road, they're building a 51,000 square foot facility.
Jesus.
This building right here is a little under 3,000 square foot.
Yeah.
It's huge, right? 51,000 square feet.
That's a big space.
It's big. 267 car storage.
Wow.
On lifts, you know, three car lifts. And
sure.
Then on the right-hand side, probably another 4,000 or 5,000 square foot detailing facility.
Wonderful.
Yeah. That I'm putting in there. So the reason we're doing that is, you know, this building can only hold so much. There's only 2 bays here, and it's really designed for filming. And
sure, it's more of a studio. Sure,
yeah, that's where I am right now, kind of thing.
Yeah,
and then that one can hold just the bays. You know, just driving in, you can fit about 8 cars in there. You know,
nice,
squished in, but 8 cars. But it's indoors, and if I overflow, I have another 50, whatever it is, 45,000 square feet.
You're good.
I'm okay. But what we did, which is pretty interesting, is we mimicked this building because the owner of that building thought so much of this one that we got the same designer and architect.
Nice.
Came in and basically replicated my building over there. So it's another, you know, it's like, you know, like a subway or
of course.
It looks just like the one I have here. So kind of jazzed about that. It's coming up in November 1st. And then we are going to be rocking and rolling and connected. And the irony is the town that I'm in, Danbury, it's like the sleeper. People. It
totally is. People drive through Danbury.
Yeah. Speed sport tuning, everything under the sun with Porsche, race facility, etc. You got across the street, literally, not figuratively, across the street, Clicking House, with all his cars being manufactured right there and sold at Speed Sport Tuning. The other side of the cross the street, all within 100 yards of each other, is the 51,000 square foot building with my facility, and I do all the Clicking House cars in there. And then a mile or 2 down the road is the Danbury, you know, the studio here that I'm in right now. And then there's every single car dealership you could ever imagine within 1 mile of here, except Ferrari. So that's kind of like the rundown. Like Danbury's like this weird secret car mecca that I had.
So you are not slowing down at all.
No.
You're still running 1,000 miles a minute.
Yeah. I mean, look at this thing right here. I don't know if people obviously are not gonna be able to see this, but this is a polisher. I have a polisher coming out. It's
that looks like a very
polisher.
phallic device.
Yeah. Well, so it doesn't have the head on it, so it's a half phallic, but yeah. So I got the new polisher coming out, so that's pretty cool.
Okay.
Got new cups coming out, and you would think that this is like a China-made cup or whatever.
But it's not.
You see the video on this, it makes the polisher look like this wasn't hand painted. You got to see it. I have 100 of these made. They took about 4 months to make, just because it was like after work kind of thing, from this guy who's a body shop guy. I mean, it just like you were painting a car. You had to, you stick a paper around.
How long is that going to keep my coffee hot for?
It keeps coffee hot for a long time, but it's the point. It's like pulling the car out of the barn. It's this piece of art that you have to maintain. That thing is. So I like making things that like have a story or have meaning. Like,
all right. So I think people need to understand this. Wow. So we're now talking about a coffee container, a coffee mug. It's basically a travel cup. Yes. This is how much of a lunatic Larry is, because I know that there was a point where he's like, I think I'm going to make a coffee, a coffee container. Yeah. And what I'm going to do is it's going to not only be a coffee container, but it's going to be the greatest coffee container the world has ever seen.
No one has ever painted one like this.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
There's like 45 layers. It's just like painting a car. Like, when you see it, the thing is wrapped up. It's crazy.
Like he gets so excited about this, and I love the fact that because no one in the history of the world has ever looked at a coffee container and be like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. I've got this thing, and I'm going to put 27 coats of paint on it, and then I'm going to sand off 3. And then I'm going to put a micrometer on it. And then once I do that, the letters will be hand stenciled to the point of sheer perfection that if Michelangelo himself reappeared in 2021, he would look at this coffee container and the paint on it and say, this is the Sistine Chapel. Yes. Coffee mugs.
Why would you want to have anything around you that's not like that? I mean, come on. If you can, I love having things that are custom, perfect, the way that you want them.
This is one of my favorite. This is why you're one of my favorite people. It's just that level of OCD and neuroticism that goes into everything that you do.
I'm thinking of making my own clothes hanger.
Dude,
if I could make it out of a thing and be like, every one of my clothes has a custom hanger that I made from scratch, that'd be amazing.
I love it. I love it so much. But folks, this is why I love having Larry on, because you need to understand the fanaticism that goes into what he does as an individual, as somebody who creates products, as somebody who, if he were to touch your car, don't question. Just shut up. Grab one of the Michelangelo coffee mugs, go out of the room and enjoy your drink and let the man work. So it's great to see that. It's great to see that level of sheer insanity go into every single product and every building and every detail and every barn find and every piece of clothing and everything. Because in this industry, there are so many corners cut. And when I say this industry, I'm talking about the automotive industry, right? In the aftermarket, whether it's detailing, whether it's parts, there are corners cut every 2 seconds. There are products that come out that are so subpar that when you get them, you look at them and go, I paid money for this? That is very frustrating as a consumer. So it's nice. It's nice to know that there's a fanatic out there.
Want to feel certain ways about the things that they do. Are ammo products the best product in the world? I think so, but maybe they're not. I don't know. But the person behind them is genuine and
he's a lunatic,
doing everything they can to do that. Yeah. Forget about products. Name anything, widgets. It doesn't matter. The part that I think is challenging and is changing over time is people want to invest in a message, in a cause, in a purpose, in somebody who fought that battle kind of thing, versus, let's say a huge conglomerate of private
of course,
that are looking to turn and burn, which there's a purpose and a reason for that as well. That there's, it is what it is. But and I'm a little reluctant to get fully into it, but how many offers and things that I've had
of course
in the past, and it just didn't make any sense to me because I could never find the way to keep it as, I don't want to say genuine because it's like tongue in cheek and a little bit like trite or whatever, but it just didn't have the same message or the same fight.
Well, that's just called integrity, and having integrity in a product, having integrity in a business is something that many people lose sight of. right? A lot of times integrity is, there's not a budget that goes along with integrity. You either have it or you don't, right? So I think that people oftentimes and companies oftentimes overlook that, and that can be their downfall, right? If it's a churn and burn style company, that is I think one of their main downfalls, as whereby if you do have those values and you are putting out a message to the public in regards to whatever the product is and whatever the service is, that goes a long way, because that's what people want to invest in. They want to invest in that thought process. And yeah, a lot of companies don't have it, and it's really glad to see that you still have it. That a lot of other companies, some other companies do.
The focus,
it's just
man.
nice.
If you're not in your zone, and I feel like that's my zone, as we just talked about. Before, like all little tiny details of everything, and what color, and why does it smell? Why does your foam soap smell like my wife's hair when she gets out of the shower? Even I have a person that mixes because I don't mix the scents, because it's a way different technology. And I explained that situation. I remember him looking over like, that's the scent you're looking for? I was like, yeah. And I was like, you have one of those? Can you mix? And he just like, I remember he's just like, okay, never had that in 35 years. So I was like, yes, when she just gets out, and the way that the mist comes off the whatever, and he's looking at me like, yeah, grab the 7894 and mix it with the 397. And I'm like, okay. So mixing smells is a whole different thing than chemicals, but you get my point. I just over.
You know what, dude? If you weren't in detailing, I would say you might be the world's perfect sommelier, because I think that level of OCDness in your taste buds and your sensory organs that could be enough. Just saying, if the detailing thing doesn't work out, if the product doesn't work out, just as a friend, I'm throwing that out to you.
Yeah, I can always go into.
You go to booze. Yeah, you go to booze.
Speaking of booze, I have a new product that's specifically designed to clean wine, which is
look at okay.
When you're washing the wine around in your mouth,
and then you spit it out,
and you spit it out or whatever, and it makes your mouth dry. You ever have that little wine like dry and they like that's usually caused by a thing called tannin, which is a fancy way of it's in bark, it's grape skins, and it's fruit, etc. So it's a stain that happens a lot with people who drink coffee and tea and juices and all those types of things that basically have tannin. So I came up with a cleaner that focuses on tannin. Why? Because you have these generalized cleaners that clean stuff, and then you have things that are specific, narrowed down. Just like I have one that's designed to clean poo and pee and urine and vomit, all the organic things. So yeah, I get very specific. So I remember when I was coming out with that, some people that I bounce ideas off of, they're like, are you sure you want to have a cleaner that's focused on poo? And I was like, yeah, I do a lot of poo things in cars. And they're like, all right, man, I don't know, but whatever. I'm always rubbing people the wrong way in terms of like the conventional.
It's great. Yeah, so. You are by far my favorite lunatic. I swear.
If you ever have poo in your car, you know who to call.
Yeah, you know who to call. Yeah. Okay, so I have one final question. Yeah. When are you coming to California? When are we going to see you?
Legitimately, I talked to Matt last night. So I think the 24th or 25th of August. When is Pebble Beach? Because I have to go there with.
That's earlier.
Pebble Beach is earlier than the end of August.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's the first or second week.
I have to go there with Gluckenhaus. I'm doing the P45 for Pebble Beach.
Yeah.
But Matt wants me to train some of the people or whatever that are in his WCCS.
Yeah.
Westside Collector Car Storage. So I got to go there. I got to do your jalopy out there. Some stuff. And then I got to meet my buddy Kevin Brown. So it's been a long time since I've been out there. And then next week I'm going out to Rupes to sign for 4 hours, by the way, to sign 100 of these and come back.
That's cool.
Yeah. So that's going to be exciting, but yeah, I should be out there. We'll shoot a bunch of videos. Trying to think if there's anything else.
Well, you got to let me know the exact date so I could be down there.
Yeah. My wedding anniversary is on the 23rd. So I booked it first then and then canceled it immediately because I
smart.
Whoops on that one. But yeah. So
okay.
I'll be out there soon.
So, all right, good. All right. So in closing, where is everybody going to find you? Obviously, I know, but tell the public where the best place to find Larry and Ammo is.
So YouTube, Ammo NYC. If you find any of them helpful, please subscribe. That's like a big thing. I always feel weird. I just wrote a bunch of templates this morning before we got on the call. So I'm trying to work within how YouTube operates. So the big challenge with YouTube, we're going down a rabbit hole here, is YouTube used to be how to. And now it's more entertainment. And I made my
on how-tos.
On how-tos. Like I want to teach people, I want to educate people, I want to inspire people, I want to like get them motivated to do what they want to, do what they're trying to accomplish in their own driveway. And now it's become more of a, like, let's watch this. And I'm not casting blame or fault. That's just how society changes, and you got to roll with the punches or adapt or die kind of thing. But it is a little bit of a rub for me. So like if you have a dirty car, a muddy car, or put whatever you want in there, and you just power wash it, you can power wash it for like 4 days in slow motion. And that's what people want to see. And to me, it's like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, that's fine.
I get it. But I don't know. I'm not someone who watches that personally. That just doesn't, but as you just said, I'm a weirdo. So I get it. That's not my thing. I want to be able to absorb as much information that helps me move on and be like, how do I learn something about plumbing or whatever, and then go do it and move on with my life. So YouTube's changed a whole lot. So that's a long way of saying, if you've watched the videos and you dig them, it doesn't cost anything. Subscribe. It's a big deal for people because you get more opportunities the more subscribers you have. So I'm narrowing in on 2 million.
Wait, because you just stretched that answer out massively.
Yeah.
So let's take a second and go back.
Yes.
Where can they find
Ammo
you?
NYC. Go to Ammo NYC. Go there, subscribe, watch it. We got tons of stuff every week coming out.
Okay.
And then of course my website, ammonyc.com. Pretty self-explanatory. And I have a ton of new products, and it's a new website too, by the way, which is a big, massive deal. After 12 years, I've finally changed over to like the website people who changed it over. They're like, yeah, man, you've been wearing like bell bottoms for the last like 12 years. It's time to put some regular jeans on or whatever. Like, I was like, oh, okay. I guess I didn't realize that was uncool. And they showed me like the tree of all the things that have to happen. And they're like, do you have a staff of like 50 people that get this all done? I'm like, no, just me. They're like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, you know what? Can you please
just do it?
Just fix the website. I don't want to. Yeah. So now we have a much easier website to navigate and stuff. So ammonyc.com. How about that for a quick answer?
All right. That's perfect. Well, Mr. Larry Kosilla, my favorite lunatic in the world. Love you to death. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We will have you back soon. And I think when you're down in LA, obviously I will be down in LA. Look forward to seeing you soon, bud.
It's going to be good. I'm excited to get on a plane and go somewhere other than here.
Wonderful. All right, buddy. We'll talk to you real soon.
All right, later.
Thanks for listening, folks. And again, please subscribe to the Hot Rod Barbecue podcast. If you're on Spotify, check us out there. Subscribe to it on iTunes. And if you are going to go to YouTube, make sure you go to the Hot Rod Barbecue podcast and hit that subscribe button, and we'll come to you every week.